topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Texas, my home state. Welcome to another Ask the Experts. 16 years of bringing you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This show coming up is very special because I'm on Medicare, and to me, it's one of the greatest things. I've been paying for it all these years, and I finally get the benefits from it. But there are so many people who don't understand about Medicare. So we bring you a show like this. I'm telling you, one of the top agents in the state of Texas. Let me welcome Jill Belvin of the Belvin Insurance Agency. Good morning, Jill.
Good morning, Steve. Thank you so much.
I got to tell you, this show is so special to me because I was uneducated about Medicare. And I got to tell you, it costs me, you know what that means. It costs me in penalties, and I lost an entire year just not being informed. So we bring you a show like this every month. And I got to tell you something else, Jill, that I don't know if we discussed on our last show, but an agent is so important. And the reason why I know that now is because I had a bad agent when I first started, Jill.
I'm sorry.
And here's a bad agent is just an order taker. They just think, hey, the next year we'll roll it over. It doesn't matter what changes. And
they never contact you again.
No customer service at all.
Right.
And I learned when I left that agent, I found an agent. I'm here in Florida now. An agent makes such a difference, Jill. Tell people, first of all, about Belvin Insurance Company Agency.
So the Belvin Insurance Agency, I have been a licensed agent for 30 plus years. I founded the Belvin Insurance Agency, LLC, many, many years ago. And I specialize in, I've turned my focus over the past 5-6 years into specializing in working with Medicare recipients, those who are leaving their workplace plans and going on to Medicare or turning 65 and joining Medicare, just to simplify that process for those who are doing so and help them understand the options that they have when they're choosing to supplement their traditional foundation Medicare Part A hospital and Part B doctor coverage. It is essential to supplement that because of gaps in coverage. But you also need to understand the ways that you can supplement it. Every person has an individual preference. It's not a one size fits all. So if you're educated and you understand your options, you can make your best Medicare decision for you.
And people don't even know that it's broken down by county, by zip code. So it's different. I mean, that's why it's so important to have an agent.
It is. And there are so many plans. It can get so confusing when people are looking at the very thick 2026 or 2025 Medicare and You handbook. it's so full of information. It just confuses people very much. So, and you get, bombarded by phone calls from call centers. They don't always tell you the full story about what your options are. They maybe just
Yes.
give you one option and say, this is good for you, whatever you don't know. So you just say, okay, sign up. Then you find out later, wait a minute, that might not have been the best choice. My doctor is not in network with this plan, or it
Yes.
doesn't cover my certain medication that I require. It doesn't really pay enough for that medication, or doesn't cover it at all. Maybe it's not on the formulary. Could be so many things, but you get bombarded with mailers and phone calls and people pushing you to do things. Well, that's not how I operate. I educate and assist. I'm a helper. I want you to understand your choices. I want you to know what your options are and have a wide variety of plans to choose from. I am appointed with 17 different companies and over 150 Medicare plans. So you do get a wide variety, but I can
Well,
help you go through those and
you
determine
know,
what's best.
boy, I'm still bombarded by these, and they're robocalls. Something you
Yes,
might think, they're dealing with an older demographics,
right.
and sometimes they don't understand the new technologies. Most of these calls are robocalls,
Yes.
and I'm telling you, this is why it's so
Artificial
important.
intelligence, right?
Yes, it's so important to have an agent like you, Jill,
Mhm.
because you can, first of all, you might like your plan you're on now, but
Mhm.
you might change next year, right?
Let's talk about that, because one of the things that I really wanted to dive into today is the annual enrollment period.
Mm,
The reason I want to dive into that is because it is right around the corner.
yes.
It starts October the 15th and it goes through December the 7th. Who should be concerned about the annual enrollment period? Okay, well, pretty much anyone who has a Medicare Advantage Part C plan should be concerned with the annual enrollment period. And those who also have a prescription drug plan, a standalone prescription drug plan. Now, the annual enrollment period really doesn't impact if you're on a Medicare supplement, Medigap plan. Those don't change because of annual enrollment. They're standardized plans and they kind of continue on. They do their own thing. They're not impacted. However, prescription drug plans are impacted and Medicare Advantage Part C plans are impacted. How do you know if your plan is impacted during annual enrollment? You will receive a letter from your company that you have your plan with during the month of September. So this month that we're in now, you should have received a letter, a
Hmm.
package called an ANOC. That stands for Annual Notice of Change document. What that packet or that letter will tell you is it will line up your benefits in your plan that you had in 2025. And right next to it, it will show you the benefits and things that are going to be in your plan, excuse me, in 2026. So you've got them side by side to look at. Okay. You want to pay close attention to that letter. Things can change in your plans. What can change? Well, many things can change. One thing is co-payments and co-insurances. Also, your doctor network can be adjusted by the plan. So you want to make sure that whatever doctors you were seeing in your current Medicare Advantage Part C plan are still going to be in your network in 2026. Copays for hospital can change, copays for specialty doctor visits. The drug formulary on your prescription drug plan can change. One change that did go into to play this 2026 is the max out of pocket or the annual initial coverage limit for medications. It was $2,000 in 2025. That would have been the maximum if you had many prescriptions that you would have had to pay. It has jumped up $100 for all prescription drug plans and all prescription drug plans within Medicare Advantage Part C to $2,100. So that's a change that you can't avoid.
Wasn't it 8,000 at one time?
It was a few years back. The government, they did some things. They passed a few laws. The Inflation Protection Act gave us some caps on that initial coverage for the prescription drugs. So that was something that was impacted in the beginning of 2025 with that 2,000 initial limit, but for 2026 it's going to 2,100. But these are things that you need to review in your plan. If anything has changed in your plan that you're concerned about, you need to review what other plans are available and what they can offer you. You don't have to change your plan. It's not something that's required. You will continue with your plan if you don't choose to review and re-enroll in another plan. But it's something you should most definitely take a look at. Just to be sure that your plan is still up to date and meeting your needs.
Jill, what do you tell your clients if they like their primary, but maybe a new plan, they're not in that group? What do you tell your clients?
Well, I let them know that. That's one thing.
Yeah, really.
I don't just say, let's get this new plan because it's awesome or what it's got this or that. I always let my clients know these are the plans that accept your doctors you love. If you're interested in, having a better benefit in your dental or your vision or over the counter or a lower copay for specialty doctors, here's another option. But I always tell them, but you will have to look for a new doctor if you choose this option. You have to understand that. You can't, just, not mention that. That's extremely important. I've been working with several clients recently who have told me, I want to keep my doctors. I don't want to, be without them. I always high priority or highly prioritize that when a client tells me that. I make sure that I check and double check the doctors in network. Now, just FYI, know that those changes that I mentioned in plans, those annual notice of change and the difference between from year to year could impact that doctor selection. Your doctor could be in network with the plan 1 year and the next year that can change. So you have to be on top of that. As an agent, I have to be on top of that. And as an insured and a Medicare recipient, you also have to be on top of that and be researching and making sure and talking with your doctor and making sure.
By not having an agent, what happened with me is the plan I chose, it was because of the doctors that were in the network. But once I got in, I found out I needed a specialist. And though they showed in the network, they weren't in my primary's little group. Oh my! And they said, no, you can't use them. I said, but here it is in my plan. But see, as an agent, you would have been able to tell me that.
Well, I would have. And I would also have tried to help you find someone who was acceptable within your plan. There are some certain times of the year. Well, I'm going to give you an example. I have a client who is getting ready to have a surgery done. She called me a few days ago. She happens to be in a type of plan. It's a dual special plan where she is able to change her plan more frequently than other Medicare Advantage plan recipients. She called me because her surgeon was not in her plan that she has. And she's had this plan for a while. She was very concerned. She's got her surgery scheduled in October. She said, I really need to use this surgeon. I said, let me check the plans. You have, more often you can, change your plan than others because of your Medicaid plus Medicare status. And we were able to get her plan changed. Her new plan goes into effect October 1st. The surgeon she wants is in her plan. So it was a win-win.
Wow.
She was happy. I'm happy that she's happy.
Yes.
We were able to get it done for her. So that's where having an agent comes in. You have someone you can call. You have someone you can rely on. If you need assistance, you have someone to help.
Well, let's do the bad news. What happens if a person misses the initial enrollment period?
Well, there are penalties associated with missing your initial enrollment period. Um,
Trust me.
the penalties are lifetime penalties, and they're going to apply to both Medicare Part B, which is the doctor, and Medicare Part D, which is the prescription plan. It goes by how many months you've missed that enrollment period, and it is a percentage of the average premium on the the prescription cost. And then it's a penalty also on Part B, doctor coverage. I'm sure you experienced that, right, Steve?
I experienced, yes, ma'am.
Yes. I try
Yes,
to
I
make
did.
sure that no one misses the initial enrollment period, at least if
I bet you
I'm
do.
working with them. We make sure they don't miss that enrollment period. And then the enrollment period for initial can be different depending on your situation. Obviously, if you're turning 65 and you do not have creditable coverage with a large corporation or workplace plan, that is your time to do it. I mean, there's no way to get around that. Now, if you are working for a large corporation, more than 20 employees, and it is considered creditable coverage by Medicare, you can postpone enrolling and you will not be penalized in that situation. If your plan with your employer has just ended abruptly, maybe they've gone through an adjustment at the company, a layoff, things like that, they do give you a 6-month window in order to get that set up. Medicare does. So it varies depending on your situation. Everyone's different with that.
What is Medicare Advantage open enrollment period?
So the open enrollment period is a period from January 1st through March 31st every year. It's a little bit different than the annual enrollment period, but still a very important time of the year. Let's say that a client or a candidate was on a Medicare Advantage plan in, the last quarter of 2025, or they just picked it up in January of 2026. If for any reason they are not pleased with their plan, or maybe they missed the annual enrollment in October through December, they have another chance. It gives you another chance to review. It is only for Medicare Advantage plan recipients. So keep this in mind. This enrollment period, January through March, is not for prescription drug plans. You cannot go and miss the annual on your prescription drug plan and then, go into January and think you're going to, review your prescription plan, your standalone prescription plan. So it has to be Medicare Advantage, and it just gives you a second chance to look at things. If you missed annual enrollment, or maybe you enrolled in something annual enrollment, and for whatever reason, that plan you got is not really what you expected or wanted, then you can readjust during that other period.
There's a text from San Marcos.
Okay.
Thank you so much for bringing a show like this to our attention. It is sorely needed. Your guest is really great. Can she explain the difference between HMO and a PPO plan?
I can give you some basics on HMO versus PPO. keep in mind, this is when we're talking Medicare Advantage Part C plans, okay? The biggest difference between an HMO and a PPO plan is, number one, look at your max out of pocket. When you look at an HMO, you're going to be looking at a much lower max out of pocket for your plan, okay? With a PPO, and I'm going to give you an average, your HMO plans, they average $3,800 max out of pocket annually. That would mean whatever, if you experience some severe health issues, that would be the max that you would be having to pay, okay? With a PPO plan, it's going to be between $7,000 if you stay in network on a max out of pocket, sometimes up to $13,000 or higher if you go out of network on a PPO plan, okay? The PPO does allow you to go out of network for providers if you need to do that. However, if you do that, it is extremely costly to you. But that's a big difference. PPO, you could go out of network if necessary. Keep in mind, an HMO lets you go out of network too if it's an emergency. So
Yes.
don't think that you can't go out of network with an HMO if you experience an emergency situation, because it will be covered. But it is a big difference in that overall max out of pocket. The other thing is, typically on a PPO, your co-pays are going to be higher for specialty doctors, for surgeries, for hospital admins than the HMO plans. So you're going to have higher out of costs for your co-payments on a PPO plan. One advantage to a PPO plan that I will mention is, with a Medicare Advantage plan, you typically have to get prior authorizations and prior approval and referrals for seeing a specialist doctor, or getting certain tests done, certain procedures done, MRIs, CT scans, surgeries. With a PPO, sometimes you can avoid some of that pre-authorization and prior approval process. They're a little bit more flexible, but you have to consider the cost of that PPO to you. You have to weigh that difference. Are you willing to jump through a few more hoops on an HMO to get your prior authorizations, prior approvals from your primary care physician, and not have to pay on an HMO that high max out of pocket if you become extremely ill, and those high copays for all of the things that you may have to do, surgery, MRI, CT scans, hospital admittance, all of those things are going to be higher. One other thing that you want to look at is the extra benefits that an HMO offers versus a PPO. You're going to typically find that the extra benefits offered in an HMO are higher. And I'm going to give you some examples of those: dental benefits, vision benefits, over-the-counter benefits for Band-Aids, Tylenol, blood pressure cuffs, heating pads. Those are all going to be more robust in an HMO plan typically than a PPO plan. Okay.
Hey, Jill, you know what? It's really amazing. Again, not having a good age. I'm actually with Humana,
Great
and
company.
they said, they called me and said, "How come you're not using the supplies that we provide you?" And I
Yeah.
went, "What?" I said, "What supplies?" It turned out that I had like $400
Yeah.
of
Over the
over the
counter
counter.
benefits. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And no one
And but
mentioned it to you. Oh my
no
goodness.
one mentioned it was and so I had to kind of do it all at one time because it was coming towards the end. But again, this
Well,
is what's so important about having a good agent. If I had a good agent back then, I would have should have known about that.
yeah, they would have
And my
explained
God,
it.
it was amazing what's included in it. Now you have to buy it through them, but
Right.
it was amazing
Mm-hmm.
all the things that it covered, Jill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're very lucky. Some of the plans do not roll over that over the counter benefit from month to month. Some of them, if you don't use it the month you get it, you lose it. So
Wow.
you really, you were lucky that Humana rolled that over all those months for you and allowed you to utilize that. But yes, over the counter it's a fun thing to have. It's not the I would say that's not the catalyst on how you should choose your plan. Just, what kind of over the counter you could get, unless you meet certain criteria.
Right.
Dual special, that would be a catalyst there. But just most plans, just typical, HMO, PPO plans, that's not a catalyst in how you choose your plan, but it's a nice benefit. And yeah, you can get things either through the company's website, their catalog.
Yes.
Sometimes you can even go into a CVS and there'll be certain items you can just go ahead and get there, or Walmart. You can get certain things there. It varies depending on the plan, but it's a nice thing to have. I mean,
yes,
just over the counter, Tylenol and
right.
spray or Afrin or whatever. I mean, or heating pads and blood pressure cuffs. Funny story. I had one client tell me, well, yeah, I bought a whole bunch of blood pressure cuffs and all of my family got one for Christmas. I was like, well, that's
wow, what a great idea.
He said he used his over the counter for blood pressure.
The show goes by so fast. There's so many more questions I have, but you're going to be with us next month. Mm-hmm. Tell people how they can reach you. I know we're showing it on the screen, but there's a lot of people listening on iHeart right now and Spotify.
Absolutely. Give me a call at my office phone number, 832-281-4474. You can go to my website, www.insurewithbelvin.com, or you can email me at jilllovesmedicare@gmail.com, and that's JILLLOVES Medicare, MEDICARE @gmail.com. Would love to speak to you. Would love to help you out. If you have any questions or you need any assistance, I'm here for you.
Jill, we're blessed to have you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're going to be here next month, right in the middle of it all. And
we're going to do our best. Right in the heat of the storm. Thank you so much, Steve.
We'll see you next month.
All right.
That's Jill Belvin, Belvin Insurance Agency. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.